Weather forecast shapes so many aspects of our lives. Its ripple effect impacts every corner of the economy. It leads to transportation delays, insurance claims, and problems with crop yields. But it can also lead to sales. Weather is a huge variable for business performance and one of the largest big data challenges businesses face today.
And welcome to Weather Geeks. We are talking all about weather analytics today, and I have two of the biggest brains in that topic here today. We have Paul Walsh, who is the Vice President of Weather Strategy for the Weather Company. You also probably know him from Forecast Factor. That's and right. We also have Glenn Finch, the Global Leader for Big Data and Analytics with IBM, Big Blue. Thank you for both for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
So,
a lot of fun.
Look, I just threw out the term weather analytics. Right. I know it's Weather Geeks, but many people are out there like, what the heck is that? What is weather analytics, Paul?
Well, you know, weather has such a huge impact on all of us, and basically everybody in the globe lives their lives based on how the weather is outside, and more based on what the weather forecast is. So what we're able to do now is use data, use analytics, to really understand how the weather is shaping consumer demand, how it's shaping what people are going to be needing. And with the advent of high-speed technology, the ability to grab all sorts of different data sources, we're now able to be really smart in terms of being able to interpret that, and most importantly, to be able to take action based on that.
Yeah, and I remember reading an AMS journal by Jeff Lazo and colleagues that said 3 to 4% of U.S. GDP is weather sensitive.
That's
so
right.
This certainly makes sense. Now, Glenn, what else is involved in this sort of weather analytics other than weather data itself?
It's a great question, Marshall. You know, I mean, our mission is to try and take weather data and mash it up with other data. Right. Maybe Facebook data, maybe economics data, stuff like that. Mash it. Yeah, well, that's what we do at IBM, right? And to figure out a way to translate into actions that businesses can take. Right. So not just the pure forecasting of weather, but you know, how can we use it to change behaviors in business or help customers, that kind of stuff.
Now, you were telling me a little earlier about some interesting, I mean, there's a major sort of distributor or seller of coffee products, and you were telling me some interesting things. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. You know, I mean, whenever you're in any type of a retail environment, weather affects everything.
Right.
Where people shop, when they shop, what they want. And all I was sharing with you is that, you know, one of our clients found that at 69 degrees Fahrenheit, people stop drinking hot drinks and start drinking cold drinks. Mm-hmm. Now that might not seem like rocket scientist to a guy from NASA, right? But what it does is it fundamentally changes how you should interact with that customer when that temperature changes, right? Don't be trying to sell hot drinks when it's hot out, thinking about selling cold drinks, right?
No, and building on that, Paul, I mean, even some news earlier this week was about a slowdown, perhaps, in the economy, or maybe not as much growth.
Right.
Weather analytics, could that be used by companies to stimulate the economy or boost the economy? We just heard this example here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ways that companies are increasingly doing that is they're becoming more proactive with weather information. And using the insights that they gain to know when the weather is going to be driving demand for something or not. Right. And using that insight to make sure that they have enough of the product that people are going to be needing. So we're moving now into hurricane season. Right. Walmart famously was out some years ago saying, we know that when a hurricane threatens, people buy strawberry Pop-Tarts.
Really?
Now, when you start doing analytics, you start gaining those sorts of insights.
Yes.
When you have those sort of insights and then you pair that with a forecast, now you know I'm going to need a lot of strawberry Pop-Tarts for this market in 2 or 3 days because Jim Cantori's on the beach talking about a hurricane.
So really as a supply, sort of a supply chain.
Supply chain and demand chain. So there's both making sure you have the products and also that you're telling people that you have the products that they're going to need.
Now look, I mean, we have a lot of data that comes from weather satellites, from Doppler radar. Now you're adding other data sets as well in this process of weather analytics. What type of infrastructure or computing does this take? Glenn?
Yeah, so what's interesting, you know, with the advent of the cloud, right? You've got a lot of clients that are just happy to let all the weather data kind of sit out in the cloud and they'll go get whatever they want, right?
Sure.
As soon as you want to start to onboard that, I mean, Paul, you were sharing 1.2 billion weather forecasts a day, right?
Wow.
That's what the Weather Channel does, right? If
Wait, Weather Channel does 1.2 billion.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So if you've got all those forecasts and then you take longitudinal time slices, and then you add Twitter data and Facebook data and economic data in those same time slices, you're talking about petabytes of data, right?
Wow.
So what we're finding from our clients is some of them want that in the cloud so that they don't have to deal with it. Others want the big computer in their premise they can put behind their firewall and make sure that nobody else touches that data, right? So it's kind of a however you want it. We want to make sure that we're there. That's why Ginny made so much investment in the cloud business to make sure that we could be where clients wanted us to be.
Sure. Now, Paul, I mean, this
all big data.
Yeah, that's definitely big data.
Sure.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and this all sounds great, and I think that we're going to get into a little bit more of how this impacts the weather community and the business community. But how do we make this happen? How do we get from sort of this weather analytics to some company actually implementing and utilizing this? What's the process?
That's a great question, because that's the $1 million question, in fact, because in order to really make this work, you have to turn this information into action. And that's where this partnership with IBM and the weather company, for example, is so important, because to really be able to do that, you have to really understand the business, you have to really understand the processes, and you have to understand how to integrate that data in a way to make it actionable.
Yeah, and I think this is really a first step here, and I suspect there will be other partnerships as well, and other people that will be getting into this as well. So it's a critical area. One of the things that really is interesting, and I want to get into a little bit more of this with both of you after the break, is what are the impacts that this will have on meteorologists? It sounds to me like this could make meteorologists obsolete in some ways, and I want to get your thoughts on that. And I also want to, after the break, talk about how we train the next generation of weather analytic experts or meteorologists in the area. So we'll get into that a little bit after the break as well. We're going to talk about what are the implications of weather analytics on meteorologists. But first, our Geek of the Week.
Sue Altman is an earth science teacher in Atlanta, Georgia, and is our Geek of the Week. Sue loves geology and spends her summers at national parks out west, where she enjoys the hot, dry weather and stunning landscapes. And when the weather keeps her indoors, she tends to her hobby of lamp working, where she melts glass with a torch. Enjoy the summer, Sue Altman, our Geek of the Week.